Welcome to the Chapter 9 Flipped Classroom, which is focusing on India and the Mauryan and Gupta empires. As you can see from this map here, we've got two different empires in India during the classical era, and they dovetail each other. So one's at the very beginning and one's at the end. The biggest empire is the Mauryan Empire. That's here in the purple, and it extends almost the tip of India and up into basically runs along the ridgeline of the Himalayas into the into the flatlanders here. And then we've got the Gupta Empire at the end of the era, which is the green here. So you can see a much smaller empire there. We're going to be referring to several regions that are on this map, so just make note of them. We're going to talk about Kalinga, we're going to talk about Bactria, and we're going to talk about Kush, which is this region here, okay? Or this kingdom here. The city that you need to know from this era is Pataliputra, and that is along the Ganges River. This PowerPoint will mainly focus on key concepts 2.2 and 2.3. We'll talk about religion in a separate PowerPoint. Also, one thing that's neat to note from this map is the trade routes. So we've got the Silk Road here, which we've already looked at a little bit, and then also the Indian Ocean Basin trade routes. And really, there should be some routes on this side as well. So without further ado, there are a couple key concepts or main ideas, sorry, not key concepts, but main ideas to keep in mind as we move through the PowerPoint. And that is that starting with around 500 BCE, India develops this classical society. And it has political, religious, and social features that continue to influence the subcontinent for centuries. So very similar to China in that you've got a lot of foundational principles here. The creation of two new religions and the evolution of Hinduism, so Buddhism, and then a religion called Jainism, which again, we're going to discuss these in a different PowerPoint, changed the cultural landscape, and the evolution of Hinduism was also very important. Caste, and this should have an E here. Caste structures provided a lot of social structure and stability, but they were challenged because of the increasing wealth of the middle classes or middle caste because of trade and industry. But again, the castes were very, very important to India's stability. Like I alluded to in the previous slide, the Guptas and Mauryans were very important for unification, but the unification wasn't the norm in India. It was actually more decentralization. Nevertheless, the Mauryans under Chandragupta Maurya and Ashoka, and the Guptas under Chandragupta created very powerful and influential states, and we'll go back to those names. Works such as the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, and the Bhagavad Gita are representative of one of the great cultural flowerings in the world history. And don't worry, I will spell those out for you later in the PowerPoint and in class. Okay, so this just gives you a little bit of background into how unification happened. And it really, India, especially in the north, is very influenced by Persia, which we learned about in Chapter 7. So even under the Aryans, India had never moved toward unification and remained a series of small kingdoms, but profound changes began around 520 with the arrival of Cyrus, the Achaemenid, and that brought increasing Persian trade and the introduction of new techniques in administration. So it introduces India to the spy network, it introduces India to satrapies, it introduces India to those law codes and taxation. Then Alexander the Great invades, and Alexander's invasion brings a power vacuum because he takes out some of the existing structures. And this void is filled by Chandragupta Maurya, who actually witnesses Alexander's initial invasion. And he comes from the kingdom of Magadha, which was the most significant kingdom after Alexander left. So that's how things get set up in India. We'll stop there before we get into our first empire, the Mauryan Empire.